Thursday from the Oklahoman studios here on 100 West Main. I'm with our Thunder coverage team, Darnell Mayberry, our guru of all things digital, Eric Horn, Thunder beat writer here in studio, and on the road joining us via Google Hangout, that would be Anthony Slater. He is in, I don't know, are you in Oakland, AC? Where are you?
Oakland. I'm actually pretty close to the arena.
All right, all the many spots in the Bay Area you could be staying. Wasn't sure where you were, but we'll be talking about the game that Anthony will be covering tonight a little bit later in the Hangout. But guys, obviously lots of news from yesterday that we still need to dissect and digest. And we've got to start obviously with the sad news of Aubrey McClendon's passing, 56, died in a single car crash yesterday morning. And Darnell, you've covered this team longer than anybody else in our market. You've been there since day one. You know the NBA's history here. Put into context for us Aubrey McClendon's role in the Thunder being here, being what they are now.
Well, he was a minority owner. Clay Bennett sort of got all the credit, all the acclaim for bringing the team here, but without guys like Aubrey McClendon, the Thunder wouldn't be here. The NBA would not be here. So you'd have to go back to the Hornets days when he was with Chesapeake. They really did a great job of putting up money to support the Hornets and their transition after Katrina hit in the Gulf South. And he just did so many things financially, even behind the scenes that people don't know about that really helped the NBA feel like it could work here in Oklahoma City when it wasn't even on the radar for the league office. And I think that's going to be his biggest contribution to the NBA being here successfully.
Well, as you wrote today, you know, he put up money for the NBA really before there was any promise of, you know, the NBA being here long term, or he just believed that it could work, and he made it known financially, which was, I mean, it was his support, but it was also, you got to have those dollars, and he was one of the first to say, yes, I'm in.
Chesapeake, when Aubrey McClendon was at Chesapeake, they put up, I believe it was $1.5 million. They were one of 5 pioneer partners, the Hornets called them. Things like that, the naming rights on the building, it's named after his former company, Chesapeake Energy. They paid, I believe it was $12 million or $3 million a year for a 12-year deal with 3% increases, annual increases. So, I mean, financially, he went above and beyond when he didn't have to continue to support this. And I think the biggest thing for him, for his family, was the civic pride that came along with what they were doing to show this is a great place to live. We can do a lot of things here in Oklahoma City. Everyone that I spoke with yesterday talked about how Aubrey McClendon was a visionary. He was a big dreamer. He loved this place. He loved trying to do things for his community, and I think that's what we saw, and it just happened to spill over into the NBA.
You know, Eric, we all had a chance to talk to different people about Aubrey yesterday, and you know, you talk about the bringing of the NBA, but there was no bigger fan. I mean, you saw it, we all saw it. He was there every game. He wasn't in the office, he wasn't in Clay Bennett's role, but there was no more active supporter of the Thunder than Aubrey McClendon.
Yeah, he was one of the staples, one of the people that was always at the games in that customary courtside seat that was kind of under the basket, close to the Thunder's bench. And I mean, as Darnell said, a guy who meant a lot to the city of Oklahoma City, and somebody who provided a lot and inspired a lot of people through Chesapeake and other companies to reach out and be a part of the community and to enhance the community. And he did so with the Thunder and the Boathouse District and a lot of other civic engagements that he was into.
I felt like I had a chance to talk to Tom Price, who was a former senior vice president at Chesapeake, and I felt like in talking to him, and we sort of talked about this for a second, the Thunder games almost became, I think, Aubrey's chance to celebrate what his city had become. You know, he obviously did it, as you mentioned, Eric, in a lot of different ways, but to be there on that court, 18,000 around him for every game, an NBA team in his city, I think it was sort of his chance to, on a regular basis, celebrate how great a place his hometown had become. It was really, really cool to see.
One more thing I'll add, Jenny, is that when the Hornets got here, they reached out to Chesapeake and tried to get their community outreach list. Mm-hmm. So they went and see the schools that they went into, the communities that they went into, and the Hornets basically patterned their community outreach after Chesapeake's, which was led of course, by Aubrey McClendon at the time. And so everything that the Hornets did when they started going into schools and they took Chris Paul and David West into these different communities, they were using the template that Chesapeake had created under Aubrey McClendon. And now what you're seeing with the Thunder, the book bus, all these reading programs and everything that the players are doing, that's all an offshoot of what Chesapeake originally did. The Hornets got from Chesapeake, and the Thunder has now taken it from the Hornets.
Yeah, great point, Darnell. And obviously this franchise has connected, much like the Hornets did with this community, much like Chesapeake did with this community. So it makes a ton of sense that there would be some connection there. Anthony, let's bring you in because you were with the team yesterday after news broke. They obviously played a game in LA. We'll get to the on-court ramifications here in a while, but you had a chance to hear from Sam Presti, to hear from players. Just so happened you were covering a game involving a team with two former players here that were fairly high profile, and Chris Paul, Jeff Green. You had a chance to talk to those guys as well. Give us a sense of what you heard from those folks as you talked to them about Aubrey McClendon.
I think Jeff Green was really good on talking about, remember, this is a team that had all these young guys from Seattle that came to Oklahoma City, a place they didn't know, and Jeff Green said Aubrey McClendon was very good at, showing them, hey, here's where you should go to eat. Here's the place you should live. He just kind of took them through the city, toured them, and he was close to those players. I think over the years, his role around the team has kind of declined a little bit. I don't think he was super close to a lot of the younger guys on this current team, and his interactions weren't, everyday. It weren't even close to an everyday basis like a Clay Bennett. So, I don't think that's hit as hard as directly as like a Monty Williams' wife did recently. But it's definitely, it was something that kind of, again, for the second time in a few weeks, kind of put life and basketball into perspective for them right before a big game. And, I think it was a somber-ish locker room pregame. But I think it's bigger to the city as a whole than maybe directly to the players.
Yeah, and I think what you said, Anthony, is echoed by – what we know and what we've heard is that, Clay Bennett, obviously that front man for the Thunder, but as a minority owner, guys, Aubrey McClendon might have been a silent partner, but he was very much a vocal supporter, again, being courtside and all of what we saw during games. Nobody was more consistent in their attendance for Thunder games than Aubrey McClendon. Let's spend just a second. I'll remind people, by the way, you're listening and watching Thunder Thursday, our weekly hangout, talking about all things Thunder. We're talking about the impact of Aubrey McClendon. And guys, we'd be remiss if we didn't look ahead just a little bit as we wonder what's next with the ownership group. Aubrey McClendon owning what we understand to be about 20% of this team. No one person owns a majority share of this team. That's the way the ownership group was structured. Darnell, it's much like the Spurs, where obviously it's been well chronicled that Clay Bennett has his NBA roots. No one person owns a big chunk of this team enough to control it. Is this part of the reason why? So you've got that stability through potential situations like
that's
this.
The key word, stability. That's what every ownership group wants, strives for, and they're local. Sam Presti stressed it in today's paper that the fact that it's local ownership is really significant, especially for Oklahoma City. We're one of the smallest markets in the league. And to have that group that has the civic pride to want to keep the team here through thick and thin, that's significant. But also the fact that they've got a diverse group. They've got people from banking, people from the oil and natural gas industries, people from the car dealership industries. So they've got a wide-ranging group. So it's not just that they're relying on one industry to support this team. They've got some heavy, deep-pocketed owners that can really support this team, and I think that's key.
Well, and Eric, to our knowledge, we don't know what the McClendon family will decide to do with their ownership. This is obviously something that is way down the list of priorities for them at this point. But, even if they do decide to sell, and even if they sold to an outside entity, you're still talking about, a vast majority of this franchise being owned by local ownership. And everything we've heard is that the business is good. So there's not sort of a lot of concern, at least from what we're being told and what we're hearing. And I think what we deduct, that this is going to somehow toss everything into upheaval.
Yeah, it would be a minority stake, and I mean, this isn't a situation like a Prokhorov where
Right.
your owners are somewhere off in another country and they're kind of hanging over the team and they're not there every day. I mean, you've got Clay Bennett who's there frequently. You've got ownership in Tulsa, based out of Tulsa. You've got guys that are invested, like you said, that are from here. So, I mean, the part that is there from the McClendon family, if they do decide to sell, is still a minority piece. And I think that Thunder fans should kind of be put at ease in a sense from that regard, that it's not going to be a majority owner that would take over if the McClendon family were to sell.
Well, and Anthony, I think that, the question that has to be on at least some fans' minds is, this is obviously a tough stretch financially for Oklahoma with oil and gas industry going down. We see a lot of layoffs around the city and the state. And then obviously everyone knows the summer that's coming up with Kevin Durant's contract coming up. And I think fans may be wondering, does this have any impact on any of that? And there's not really a sense that it does, Anthony, as far as just, again, I go back to that word stability. I guess that that's sort of the bottom line. Even though things would seem like they're a little bit up in the air, it doesn't seem like the Thunder brass is feeling that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to get to the negotiation table and they're going to be like, we want to sign you, but the money right now is too tight.
Right.
Because, I mean, think about how much money Kevin Durant makes for this franchise. I mean, that would just, regardless of the money you have to give him, that would be a bad business move to let him go. So, I mean, everything's lined up. This team is going to try to continue to re-sign its star players over the next 2 years. Now, do they stay or go? Who knows at this point? But, it doesn't really have anything to do with the ownership group at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was thinking this morning, guys, we talked about the Spurs being the model for the Thunder and the way the ownership group set up. Let's remember that when Clay Bennett was involved with the Spurs ownership under the Gaylord family, that was ownership from here. I mean, that was essentially out-of-town ownership, and as we well know, the Spurs are still very much a powerhouse in this league. So whether ownership is local or maybe spread a little bit beyond that, you've still got, with the structure the way it is, it's set up to maintain long-term, to be stable long-term, and I think we're going to see evidence of that moving forward.
Well,
Anthony?
I think ownership, as we've seen, is like incredibly crucial to an NBA team's success. Just look at what's going on in Sacramento right now.
Right.
But I just think having Clay Bennett here as the majority guy, I just don't think the loss of Aubrey McClendon, while it's really damning to the city and it's a tough time, I don't think it shakes anything up.
Yeah,
Thunder-wise.
We'll obviously be watching in coming days as it relates to this, but I think at this point, I think Anthony brings up a good point. It's more sort of a hit to the city's psyche and the loss of such a great champion of this city. That, I think, really the sadness of all that is sort of in the front of people's minds. Hey, you're watching the Thunder Thursday Hangout, our weekly conversation about all things Thunder. And guys, let's turn to what we saw last night, which was...
Do we have to?
I know. I'm sorry. I feel like
I don't mind.
Well, you saw it up close and personal, Anthony.
Yeah.
Let's start with you. A game that seemed to be just clicking down the tracks. Everything's great. Defense is good. Stars are hitting. It was a train wreck, Anthony, in the end. What went wrong for the Thunder?
The Stars, I thought they were the main culprits of everything. There's people after the game saying, Kevin Durant might want to leave if he sees what's going on the floor. It's like, I thought he was the biggest issue down the stretch. He's fumbling the ball. There was one play where he drove, fumbled it away. It actually went to, I believe it was Andre Robertson. They swung it back to Durant. He tried to drive again, and he did the same thing. He fumbled it right back. Silly turnover from him. And then when they're down 3 and actually still have a chance to tie, Russell Westbrook, he's had a career of taking some strange late game shots. I think that might have been the worst. That line drive off the backboard with 6 seconds left. It was a meltdown, but I think in a lot of ways it was a meltdown by the Stars, the guys you don't expect to screw up in those type of situations.
Yeah, you mentioned Russell, and I don't want to let Durant off the hook, but Westbrook, guys, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. You don't see Russell sort of had those moments of, bad Russ like we used to see, where he sort of goes into some weird shell and you wonder what's going on. that happened last night. Might be the first time we've seen it all year, frankly.
Well, no, he actually has. He actually does. I feel like in those late game situations. I remember in Miami earlier this year, Atlanta, like some of these late game losses. He's had some strange plays, and to me, it's really his 3-point shooting selection where he freaks out. They're losing or they need a 3, and he just dribbles up and just fires up a line drive that, it's not high percentage. It's not even close. Kevin Durant was actually wide open at the top of the key when he took that shot last night.
Yeah, well, and this obviously has people hearkening back to what we saw Saturday night, which was another late game meltdown, loss of a big lead against the Warriors. Now, it's the Warriors. I mean, they're going to score bunches of points real quick. So that one, I don't know if you let them off the hook for it, but you can understand it, whereas what we saw last night was almost flipping a switch. How's it fixed, Eric?
Accountability, as Billy Donovan said. The stars have to be accountable. I mean, when it gets down to those last few minutes of games, we've seen the Thunder time and time again post All-Star break, and not just post All-Star break, but, I mean, several times against good teams this season. We've seen them kind of waste games away in the last minutes and last seconds of games. And the Indiana game was lost that way. The Golden State game was lost with the mistake by Durant turning the ball over. And this game, a big lead was lost in the fourth quarter in the second half. And the stars on the team didn't respond well in those instances. Right. You got the errant 3 from Russell Westbrook, in which they tried to justify by him trying to draw a foul, which doesn't come off as good justification for taking a bad shot. Yeah. So stars and accountability, as Billy Donovan said. I mean, he didn't say their names personally, but those are the guys it falls on in those situations, and we saw it firsthand last night.
Well, I'll
piggyback on what Eric said, and I think it's accountability, but I don't think it's accountability so much as Billy Donovan holding the stars accountable, or Sam Presti holding Billy Donovan accountable, or even Clay Bennett holding Sam Presti accountable.
Right.
I think it's star-to-star accountability. That's the thing that no one ever talks about. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook have to hold each other accountable, and that's something that you don't see. If they make a mistake offensively, they're yelling at each other. Not each other, they're yelling at their teammates. But if they make a mistake defensively, all you see is, my bad, and they move on to the next play. And it's like no one gets bothered by it. No one gets annoyed by the same things happening over and over. And with Kevin and Russ, to me at least, they don't seem to be comfortable enough with each other to really yell at each other and get on each other. They might do it in practice. They might do it a little bit in film sessions or something like that. But on the court, in the thick of in the heat of the moment, in the thick of everything, in the heat of battle, they don't, to me, what I see, they don't get on each other and really hold each other accountable and push each other to be great, to be better than they are. Yeah. They're already great players, but they can be better. They can take it up another notch, and I just don't see that out of them.
Yeah.
And while Kevin Durant's accountability through the media last night was good to see him take that on himself, it's almost as empty as Russell Westbrook being in denial about the situation. It's about actions. Kevin Durant said it. Kevin Durant could have said, we played crummy and left, and we'd have ripped him for that. But at the same time, it would have been the same thing as him going on a monologue and taking blame for the situation. They just need to play better in those situations. They need to do it on the court, and apologizing through the media, it doesn't really do anything for them until they go out and execute.
You almost wonder about that lack of in-game accountability and sort of being willing to get on each other. You know, they've been criticized so much about they don't get along. You almost wonder if there's some of that sort of hanging over their heads, like we have to play nice.
I think there's no doubt about it, Jenny. I think there's no doubt about it. They've been pulled apart, or at least in their minds, people have tried to pull them apart so much throughout their careers. Now, they've gotten to a point, and it happened 3-4 years ago, where they got to a point where they felt like they need to rely on each other, that they need to support one another no matter what. And I think Kevin really deferred to Russell Westbrook in that regard so much to where now Russell can come down and take a crazy shot to lose the game and no one says anything to him, because I just feel like they've been criticized so much, and Russell has taken the brunt of that to where, I don't think Kevin feels comfortable saying anything to him.
Yeah,
Anthony? I don't think anyone feels comfortable saying anything to him.
But Kevin is the only one that can, and that's the problem. Yeah. I don't think he is, and he's the only one that can.
Yeah, Anthony, you were there when Kevin Durant talked about all of this after the game last night. Saying things like, we're fooling ourselves if we want to be a great team the way we're playing. I agree with Eric. I felt like it was somewhat hollow, but at the same time, at least there was a recognition that, this is not how an elite level team plays on a night in and night out basis. Anthony, since you were right there when he was talking about all this, How did it strike you? How did it sit with you?
Good. I mean, I think it was what he needed to do. A lot of these games lately, he comes out and like, oh, they hit tough shots. Oh, whoever got hot from three, he never hits fadeaways. Or, the Pelicans game recently, it's like, Ryan Anderson hit a couple fadeaways and Tony Douglas hit a three, whatever. But, last night it was, I think he knew it needed to be said because of how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was good that it was done. It was done right next to Russell Westbrook. And then Russell Westbrook talks about 2 minutes later, and he did not do the same thing. But, but I mean, like you guys are saying, we got to see it. And, he even said it within the thing. We can talk about this all we want. We got to go out and do it. And he's right.
Well, they've got to go out and do some things, and that's got to happen quickly, as in tonight. You're watching Thunder Thursdays.
I don't know what's going to happen tonight.
Well, I said it. I didn't say it would. I said it needed to because, as we all know, tonight is the Warriors game. And, guys, we expected to be talking all Warriors, all Thunder Thursday. But, obviously, the events of yesterday changed the course of things. And here we are 23 or 4 minutes into Thunder Thursday, and we have yet to talk about this game. But, obviously, what we saw Saturday, epic game. I can't imagine we're going to see that again. But, Eric, there's questions of who's available for the Warriors. Does any of that matter in your mind? Who may or may not play for them today?
When you ask me if it matters, from what standpoint?
Yeah, just from a standpoint of, against if the Thunder wins this game, does that matter? Or if they lose, does that matter?
I think if Steph Curry plays, it matters, and they win, it matters, certainly. I think if Steph Curry doesn't play and they win, it matters too. One, because the Warriors have this crazy long home winning streak going on to where if they win, they can tie the Chicago Bulls from 95-96 for the longest home winning streak in NBA history. The Thunder, I don't think, are so much worried about that. But it's the whole psyche of going into Oracle and winning a game. Whether Steph Curry's on the floor or not, if they go in and win, that's going to be a big deal for them. Not to mention it's going to be the biggest win they've had post All-Star break, maybe if not the entire season, if Steph Curry's not there. Now, is the national media going to say, oh, Steph Curry wasn't there, the Thunder still haven't proven anything? Yeah, they're going to get a lot of that, but at the same time, it can't be discredited. Like, it's still going to be a major win against a team that's on a 74, 73 win pace. So, yeah, it's going to be a big win for them if they come in and win tonight, especially coming off of this terrible game they played against the Clippers, or the terrible fourth quarter against the Clippers.
Right. Okay, Anthony, you said it won't. You don't think it'll matter tonight. I may be paraphrasing what you just said, but can the Thunder get back on track after what we saw last night and the challenge that they're facing, whether Steph Curry plays or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with if he plays, if they have a chance tonight. I'd really, it truly is one of 82. I mean, not to sound like a player here, but seeding wise, I think the games that matter more in the next month are the Clippers games, which is next Wednesday and then March 31st, both in Oklahoma City, because they're not moving up in the standings. They may move back, and they'd much rather have the Spurs in round 2, and that means they got to stay ahead of the Clippers. So tonight matters, but if you lose in Oakland on the second night of a back-to-back, I mean, this is. If you just laid out the schedule at the start of the season, say, find the most for sure loss on the schedule, I would say, right there, back-to-back on the road in Oakland. So if they lose, whatever. If they win, cool. I mean, everyone still is going to view the Warriors as the clear favorites for the title. So it'll be fun to watch, but I don't know that it matters much long term.
Well, let's put this. I mean, there's obviously a lot of layers to this, Darnell, because you do have what happened last night, second night of a back-to-back. This home winning streak that Eric mentioned earlier.
Steph Curry, Iguodala, will they play? Will they not play? Who knows?
I mean, is this a game that is almost a sure loss? You hate to say that because clearly in those first 2 games, with the exception of Steph Curry, this Thunder team has shown it can beat the Warriors. Of course, they've still got Steph Curry, so.
A little bit of disclosure here, Jenny.
Okay.
Yesterday in the office, I predicted the Thunder was going to win in L.A. and Golden State.
Okay.
Of course, we know what happened last night in L.A.
So now what do you say?
I think they're going to come out fired up. I think they got a chance to win this game tonight just because they haven't been playing all that well, and you see flashes of what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So I think now they're sort of ticked off. They're riled up. The Golden State obviously has their full attention. Golden State gets everyone's full attention.
Right.
And I think Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant know that that loss last night was on them. And I think they're going to come out and play much better, although it's hard for them to play any better than they did the first 3.5 quarters. Golden State doesn't have an answer for Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook.
True.
And now you might have a hobbling Steph Curry out there, if at all. You might have a hobbling Andre Iguodala out there, if at all. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to win in Golden State, but I do think the Thunder's capable of it. They played well the last time they were out there.
That's true.
You know-
Go ahead, Anthony.
I was gonna say, I mean, I agree. I actually do think they are gonna come out fired up tonight. I think they have a nice chance to win if Curry and Iguodala don't play. But if those two play, I just think regardless of how much energy and focus they come out with at the start, in Oracle you're gonna need 48 minutes, maybe longer of focus and energy. And I just on the second night of a back-to-back with how draining the last week has been, I don't know if they can overcome those, 12-0 runs that the Warriors are going to throw on them where the crowd's going crazy. It's just tough for me to see them win against a fully stocked Warriors team.
What's the Cavs game comes to mind, but what other big games have they not gotten up for this year?
The Thunder?
Yeah.
Christmas Day was pretty bad at home against the Bulls.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, a lot of it's been home games in a weird way.
But the big games, I feel like they have a history of getting up for big games always.
I
Cavs
think
game was
Christmas
one that they
should be-
didn't.
You're right. That's what made the Cavs game so, surprising. No, like I said, I do think they're going to get up for it. I just think if Curry's playing, just to stem the tide against the Warriors, when you played a draining game that ended at like 10:30 last night in a different city, it may just
tough.
be a little bit too much.
I guess my point is they might not win every big game, but they're going to get up for it and be in the game.
Right.
So that's what I expect tonight.
The thing that I'm kind of curious about, if Curry doesn't play, and if the Thunder wins this game, we know, like I said earlier, we know this team can handle the Warriors, but they can't handle Steph Curry. So does a win matter, and does the fact that it would come in Oracle, in a place where nobody has won for so long, does that maybe give it more weight even without Steph Curry? Does that make it matter?
I think it matters to them. It might not matter to us.
Regardless?
Regardless.
I actually think the opposite. I think it matters to the national media, and people will talk about oh, this is a huge win, but I don't think in the long term it matters.
But they're always
So,
they're gonna discredit it because Steph doesn't play.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying if he does play. Either way, I truly don't think it matters in the long term. The Warriors are still clearly the favorites. The Thunder are still fighting for the 3 seed. We'll see what happens come down the road.
Slater,
But
are you turning into the grumpy old man on this beat?
no, what I'm saying
You're
is
starting to sound like me.
maybe. I'm tired. I am tired.
He's going on 2 minutes sleep today,
I think it matters more from a standpoint of we got to beat a good team. They beat Dallas. I guess that was last week. I don't remember when it was now. But they haven't
against
beaten
a quality team.
Yeah, they haven't beaten any good teams, any really good teams since the post All-Star break.
That's true.
Well, here's my answer. I don't think it matters. I'm with Slater. I don't think it matters. And here's why. They are who they are. Mm-hmm. At this point, we know them to be a very inconsistent team. They have trouble, extreme trouble, putting together 48 minutes of steady, hard play. Their defensive issues are well documented at this point. Their late game execution is the worst it's been probably since the first or second season.
Yeah.
And so all of these things, we know who they are at this point. It's been 60 games. It's not going to change. One win with or without Steph Curry is not going to matter.
The morale around this team will improve if they win tonight for the next 3 days moving forward. But I don't think suddenly in early June when they're getting ready to play a Western Conference Finals game against them in Oracle, I don't think they'll be like, hey, remember the March game? Yeah, we'll win tonight now.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. If it was no Steph Curry in Oklahoma City, I would tend to definitely agree with Darnell and Anthony. But I think because it's in Oracle, I still think there's the aura of winning in that place. And so few teams have done it. I tend to give it a little more weight. Now, does it win a game in the playoffs? I'm not suggesting that, but I do think it adds just a little. It's sort of like, nobody has gone in there regardless of who it is and won. And that's pretty significant to be able to maybe break that streak. We'll see tonight, 9:30. Be sure to get your coffee, get your caffeine, be ready to go, everybody. It's going to be a good one. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.